because that's what houses do when their owners fail to care for them. They slowly fall apart. There was also the fact that the owner of the estate, Melena M. Mallory, was Piper's grandmother. And if Piper's grandmother were a witch, Piper would know it. She wasn't extremely close with the woman, but she saw her often enough to be sure. Her grandma drove a pearl-white convertible, perhaps the least witchy mode of transportation imaginable, and she had a perfectly sensible job as an archivist. If she was familiar with cauldrons or potions, it was only through historic documents. She'd also attended every single one of Piper's childhood birthday parties, cheering as Piper blew out her candles, with exactly the sort of enthusiasm you'd expect of a doting grandmother. When Piper turned 10 and began having sleepovers with friends in lieu of afternoon parties, Grandma Mallory had started a tradition of taking Piper out to lunch the very next day, wherever Piper liked. Friendly's that first year, then the Cheesecake Factory when she turned 11 and 12. Piper had even been to Mallory Estate herself, once. It was the Christmas after her parents had divorced, when her father still believed that holiday dinners as a family might be possible. Sure, she'd been only 5 at the time, but she recalled the estate being a very big and boring residence, without a single trace of trapped children like the stories claimed. Plus, Piper had walked safely out of the house at the end of the evening, hand in hand with her father, which threw a wrench in the entire "once you go in, you're stuck there forever" theory. No, nothing about Mallory Estate was very suspicious, and her grandmother was most certainly not a witch. But late in the afternoon, on the first Monday of summer vacation, as the car turned onto the estate's gravel drive, Piper felt a shiver run down her spine nonetheless. Maybe there was a very small piece of her that wanted her grandmother's house to be brimming with magic and curses and spells. Magic, even of the wicked variety, would be a wonderful distraction. More likely, it was the fact that her father's latest round of chemo hadn't brought the results the doctors had hoped for, and the thought of spending the summer at Mallory Estate, as he underwent even more radiation, alone, made Piper tremble. The ghost of the shiver still lingered when the mansion appeared through the car's windshield. It was massive, 3 stories tall, 4 if you counted the turret. Piper could see why adults used the word regal to describe it, but it was too intimidating to be charming. "I don't understand why I can't stay with you," she groaned from the back seat. "I told you already," Aunt Eva answered. "Client conflicts. I'll be in Colorado for most of the summer, starting work on that big account I landed last month." Piper's Aunt Evangeline was in marketing. She lived just a few miles from Piper and her father, and worked from a quaint office in the Farmington Valley. Occasionally, she had to travel to New York or Boston for a few days. But spending nearly all summer halfway across the country, Piper blew out a disgruntled breath. It wasn't that she'd made grand plans for the summer. Piper hadn't been invited to Bridget Caldwater's pool party, and the entire town seemed to be invited. Piper was used to her classmates treating her like she was invisible, but she'd held out hope that her ex-best friend would stop ignoring her. No such luck. Even so, Piper would have preferred to be at the bungalow. She clutched her locket through her shirt, thinking of the packed bookshelf back home. It would have kept her plenty busy. "You can come stay with me as soon as I'm back," her aunt continued, glancing at Piper in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were stormy gray, just like Piper's father's. "And this might not even be for that long. If your dad gets better, you could be back home with him before August." Piper didn't miss the distinction. If, not when. The chemo wasn't working. Her father was growing weaker, and clearly no one thought he would recover, not even his own sister. Because if they did, Aunt Eva would be saying when he got better, not if. Piper's aunt bit her bottom lip. "Aren't you at least a little..."